Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Epic Comic Book Wednesday. This is a world's finest collaboration between Michael K Vaughan and myself, where we combine the forces of Stately Vaughan Manor and Hyde Cottage to talk about the comic books on which we've wasted our youths. And since I horned in on this event however many years ago, Mike gets to pick what we talk about. And that can sometimes lead to disaster, but not this week. Not this week. This week, he picked a great run on a character. We've talked on Epic Comic Book Wednesday many times about the odd phenomenon of a run. It makes sense. Once you introduce continuity and verisimilitude into superhero comic books, it makes sense that you would have runs where a different writer and a different artist maybe try something a little bit distinctive or different or new and strike gold. And suddenly your book is hot. Readers are going into the comic shop to get it. Word of mouth has spread. The first collaboration between the two of you that happened invariably below the radar is now hard to find. The comic shop that's used up to its eyeballs in back issues suddenly doesn't have that one. And then you start to look around other comic book shops and conventions at first, and then after the internet, online, and find that very first appearance of this collaboration, the thing that unofficially kicked off the run, is expensive to get. Runs are a lot of fun. They're a weird phenomenon. It's also my reaction to them is a little weird because although they're a lot of fun, I wish they didn't exist. Comics should be steady state. But as long as they do exist, I can perfectly well acknowledge that they give great, great comics. And the run that we're talking about today is the second bite at the apple. It's from the 1990s. In the 1990s, the terrific comic writer Mark Waid teamed up with a fantastic comic book artist named Ron Garney, and they did a run of Captain America, one of Marvel's signature heroes, one of their holy trinity. If you have each of the superhero comic books has a holy trinity of characters. And DC, of course, it's easy. It's Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Marvel, there are two holy trinities. One is from the World War II era, before Marvel was called Marvel, and that was Captain America, Prince Namor the Submariner, and the Human Torch. And then in the modern era, there are other trilogies. Captain America is always part of it because of his origin story, both parts of his origin story. In World War II, a sickly little boy, 4F flunk out, named Steve Rogers, volunteers for a mysterious program that turns him into a super soldier. He drinks a super soldier serum and then has radiation bombardment, I guess, to fix it in place or whatnot so that he doesn't pee it out. And it mutates him into the pinnacle of human perfection. So Captain America is not technically superpowered, but he is right at the border of the human potential to the point where a writer and an artist can kind of make him do borderline supernatural things. Much like Doc Savage in that regard, or maybe Batman. In that Captain America is the pinnacle of what a human physiology can do, and so who knows? Who knows whether or not he's doing anything really, really amazing. It's a very different thing. Those of you who are not comic book fans, I don't know that any of you watch these videos. Comic book fans don't watch these videos. But if you only know Captain America from the movies, from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, well, there you're going to see a Captain America who is superpowered. There you're going to see a Captain America who can jump 30 feet and jump from 50 feet without even needing to duck and roll when he hits the ground. There you'll see a Captain America who can hold a helicopter in place against the engine, the rotary of a helicopter, and whatnot. In the comics, that's not quite true. In the comics, the Captain America is capable of amazing feats of athleticism, but he's not superpowered. And the scientist who created the serum and I guess all of the notes for all of the equipment and all of the everything that could ever reproduce that serum again in anyone else is destroyed. So Captain America is one of a kind. And as the Captain America mythos develops, two things happen. One, he is thrown into suspended animation at the end of World War II and doesn't wake up again for decades. So it's the same Captain America. The guy who fought in World War II was brought out of suspended animation and is currently fighting in the present day. That's thing number one. And thing number two is that Captain America's shield, he has a famous shield. It started out a triangular shield with points on it, but then it moves to the incredibly familiar round metal shield that he can throw and bounce off things. The second development after Captain America comes out of suspended animation is that eventually the lore has it that his shield is a one-of-a-kind thing. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, his shield is made of vibranium, which is a metal found only in Wakanda, in Africa, and that it's incredibly dense, and it also reflects kinetic impact. So vibranium is a great source of protection. And in the Marvel Universe, the post-World War II era Marvel Universe, there's another substance called adamantium that is the most powerful substance, the densest, most indestructible substance known to man. A full-on strike from Thor's hammer can not even crack it. Famously, Wolverine's skeleton and claws are made of adamantium. And in the lore that develops around Captain America, once he comes out of suspended animation, we learn that his round shield was also one of a kind. It was also a metallurgical accident combining vibranium and adamantium into a shield that is virtually indestructible and that can do a lot of impact absorbing. The shield and Captain America become synonymous, but when Captain America comes to the present day, well, he has to just stand out the way the character did during World War II. And Marvel writers have tended to go at that with a vengeance. Captain America is usually done quite well. They're usually taken in thought-provoking directions, especially when you have something like Watergate. When you have something like Watergate, what do you do with a character called Captain America if something like Watergate happens to America? I say this because Captain America is very enjoyable to read. I have always enjoyed reading this character. His books usually highlight action a lot. I've always enjoyed the character, and yet Captain America is not a character. He doesn't have a personality. Who is Steve Rogers? Writers over the decades have made various stabs, various attempts at doing that. Maybe he likes to be an artist or wants to be a cop or something like that. But it doesn't work. Captain America is his costume identity. This is just the risk that you run with certain Trinity characters. I mean, Iron Man, now, the post-Marvel Cinematic Universe, Iron Man definitely has a personality. In addition to his Iron Man identity, he definitely has a personality. And of course, Thor has a personality. He is a personality that extends back thousands of years. And the same thing is true, I think, with Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. Captain America, though? Who is Captain America? What aside from being a man displaced out of time, what would Steve Rogers think about one situation or another? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. They know what Captain America would do about one situation or another, but not otherwise. So he is a bit of a challenge to write. It's a bit of a challenge to do him well. This could lead to in uneven sales, uneven enthusiasm on the part of readers, especially in the 1990s, where the absolute sanity of the 1980s had been badly destabilized, and everyone watching the thing, everyone watching society, didn't know, is it gonna get worse, or are we going to stabilize again? Of course, none of us who were watching society in the 1990s had any idea that the change from the 1990s to the 21st century would also be the abandonment of all sense. All common sense, anything like normal through-line progression of events would go out the window at the beginning of the 21st century and just stay that way, or get worse. But in the 1990s, there was still enough instability to cause disillusionment on the part of a lot of readers. So what do you do with a character like Captain America, if that's true? What do you do really with any of your flagship characters at Marvel Comics? Now, there's a right answer to that question, and there's a wrong answer. The right answer is pump creative genius into these things. Find the right writers and the right artists, team them up in the right way, and let them make gold out of these books. Win back reader enthusiasm. That is exactly what Mark Waid and Ron Garney did on Captain America. They won back fan apathy. And what Marvel chose to do instead was the wrong thing to do. They chose the wrong thing to do, which is to do a stunt reboot. They took a whole bunch of their characters, Iron Man, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, most disastrously Captain America. They took a whole bunch of their standard characters and gave their storylines over to a bunch of drunken 20-year-olds, frat bros, who were crushing brewskis against their foreheads and saying, "We can do a effing better job on these characters, dude. Just give us control of them, dude. We got so many great ideas, dude. Hey, what was that idea we had anyway?" So they did that. Marvel did that. They had an event. They had a big amorphous blob of a hero called Onslaught. And he and one other character create a pocket universe where suddenly you can reinvent these signature characters. You can have an alternate reality version of Captain America, an alternate reality version of the Avengers, or the Fantastic Four. You can retell their origin stories. You can have first issues. And that was awful. That was the Heroes Reborn era, and those issues were awful. Awful. I believe that Marvel Comics probably lost 35% of its loyal readership there, and that never came back. Thought, if you can do this to the Avengers, then forget about it. You could say that you're going to change things back, but I don't believe you. I bet that was the beginning of the attrition of readers on comic books, because that was Marvel Comics saying, well, I don't know what they were saying, but they gave Captain America in Heroes Reborn to a comic book writer and artist, and I use both of those words facetiously, named Rob Liefeld. And Rob Liefeld is completely talentless. As a writer and as an artist, he's completely talentless. All he did for his run on Captain America was a small amount of half-break dude bro ideas about what would make Cap cool, dude. What would make him cool, dude? Why does he have an A on the cowl of his head? Shouldn't it be like a bird or something, dude? Shouldn't it be, dude? I don't know. And shouldn't all the women be hot, like just incredibly hot? Isn't that really what this is all about? Isn't this really just about the hot chicks? Rob Liefeld, at any point in his career, dealing with any kind of character, basically is saying, isn't this really all about the hot chicks? I want you to prepare yourself, BookTube. I know that not many people are watching these comic book videos, but even so, this is not going to be easy for you to look at. Rob Liefeld was such a fan of objectifying women's hooters that he gave his Captain America a pair. It's Cap boobs. Yep. And fans hated it. Of course they did. They hated it. They just hated these issues. They're awful. Absolutely terrible. Why on earth would you throw out 45 years of rich storytelling in order to reinvent things from ground up with a bunch of brewski bros? And so, eventually, it didn't take long. It felt like forever. It didn't take long, though, for Marvel to just end that reboot and bring everybody back for the Heroes Reborn storyline. So we get a relaunch of the Fantastic Four. We got a relaunch of the Avengers, a relaunch of Iron Man. I felt sorry for those 35% of Marvel fans who left during Heroes Reborn, because the Avengers run, the Heroes Return Avengers run, Avengers #1 and on from there, was not only one of the greatest extended runs in Avengers history, but also the last great Avengers run of them all. The last one there'll ever be. Those issues were incredible. They were absolutely amazing. And Iron Man, not so much. And Fantastic Four, I don't think, not so much. But, not only did Marvel bring back their original heroes in the way that fans love them, but they brought back Mark Waid and Ron Garney for Captain America. They brought Captain America back into Serve and Protect. This is what we're talking about today. Captain America returns from that alternate dimension. He doesn't remember much of it, really any of it, and he shows up in Japan. Nobody knows why. Most of the heroes showed up in New York. He shows up in Japan and only belatedly realizes that he's been gone for a year. To him, it feels like just a week. He's been gone for a year. And he has to get his bearings again in the modern world. Almost like when he was brought out of suspended animation. But Waid and Garney don't at all give you contemplative issues. These are action-filled issues, exactly as they should be. Ron Garney is terrific. He is an amazing comic book artist. And these issues, there weren't many of them. I think there were more than 4 or 5, 6 issues in this run. This comic book will never be longer than this. I know there's a big hardcover anthology that includes the Mark Waid, Ron Garney run before this, as well as this. But here, this issue, you just got Captain America returning to the world. That's all. And thanks to Ron Garney's artwork, it's amazingly done. Just amazingly done. With some fantastic sequences. There is a nameless, faceless Hydra agent threatening Captain America. Captain America has taken his glove off. And he's testing the wind. And before this guy kicks the door open, he throws his shield straight up in the air. So the Hydra agent bursts through the door and doesn't see his shield anywhere, holding him at gunpoint, saying, well, a fat lot of good you are without your shield. You don't have your precious shield. And Captain America says, it'll come if I whistle for it. And he whistles for it, not to call the shield, but because he's timed it perfectly. The thing shows up out of nowhere. The scientist whose life he saves says, where do I get one of those? And Captain America says, you don't. She's a one-of-a-kind vibranium adamantium alloy. And the scientist says, you got a name for it? And Captain America says, you mean like Trigger? Do you have a name for your right arm? And they learn in this issue that Hydra has commandeered a submarine. They're holding the crew. And they hear a noise in one of the torpedo tubes, and it's Captain America, who just says knock knock and bursts onto the scene here. Just incredible. This is incredible artistic stuff here. And one of the notes of appreciation that I want to give her for Mark Waid. Mark Waid is terrific at writing comics. He's terrific at getting into the characters. Just amazing stuff. Written some of the best Marvel and DC comics that exist. And one of the little details, he's great at plot, he's great at the larger ethos of these characters, he really understands them, but I also love his dialogue. He's so good at toss-off little quips in his dialogue. There are a couple that I want to point to in this issue. Like, for instance, when Captain America starts mowing down these Hydra agents, the captive crew of the submarine, one of them says, I don't get it, ain't he Army? Which is so on the nose. That is so the way that Navy people think. Why would he help us? He's Army. He's not Navy. And then they decide, the guys realize, what are we doing waiting around here? Why don't we grab whatever we can hold and help Cap out? One of the guys says, do we want to stand here, or do we want to tell our grandkids that we duked it out side by side with Captain America? Awesome. Just incredible. The submarine still has to go down, though. It has a fatal nerve agent on board. So Captain America, it has to go down, and he has a way to get off the ship safely with a lieutenant commander who is now in command of the vessel. The way that they will get off safely is to let the explosion blow them through a torpedo tube. And she says, are you kidding? We'll be blown to bits. And Captain America says, maybe not. Hold tight and let the shield absorb the impact. I'm the one closest to the blast, so you have less to worry about. Trust the shield. It's never let me down. A little bit ham-handed on Mark Waid's part, but only because you know what's coming. The ship explodes, and the two survive. And Captain America has a choice. He can either save her life, or he can retrieve his shield. And that's ultimately no choice. So he lets his shield go. And they get picked up, and Captain America is still thinking that he has it with him because it's a part of him, like his arm. One of the sailors says, easy, Cap, easy, don't strain yourself. Sun's beating down pretty hot. And Captain America says, I'll be fine. I pack my own shade. but it's not there anymore. It's not on his arm, and it's gone. And that is just wonderful. That is a great way to goose the plot without having Captain America murder somebody, without having Captain America say "Hail Hydra," without race or gender swapping Captain America, without doing anything like that. That's just a great plot line. Tony Stark, Iron Man, creates an extremely dense metal shield for Captain America. It doesn't work out all that well. He's not sure that he really likes it. But it doesn't matter because Hydra is still on the offensive, and they have set explosives in a history museum. And Captain America is there with a group of kids. See, there he is fighting in World War II with his old triangular shield and Prince Namor and the Submariner. Terrific, terrific stuff. But when they're surrounded by gunmen, Captain America also has no choice. His shield is down. He has no choice but to just take a blast in the back. Now, he's extremely durable. He has an extremely high healing factor, and he's wearing chainmail. So it doesn't kill him. It hurts him, but it doesn't kill him. And Hydra is left just sort of pawing over his shield, the fake shield, the one that Tony Stark made. When they hear a voice, "You want a shot at me? Fine. Draw your weapons. Do your worst." And it's Captain America with his original shield, the triangular shield. That is such a Mark Waid gesture. Always look to the past to goose up the present's plotline. That is such a Mark Waid thing to do. And it works wonderfully. Absolutely wonderfully. So Captain America actually does use his triangular shield. And in the next issue, he teams up with Hawkeye, also familiar to you from Avengers movies, as they explore the fact that Captain America is now worshipped. He's not just admired by the superhero-liking public. He's worshipped by them. And it's freaking him out. It's throwing him off his game. At one point on the ice rink at Rockefeller Center, they fight Batroc the Leaper, who is a French assassin for hire skilled in the French kickboxing art of savate. And Hawkeye tries to fight Batroc, but of course it won't work. When they're on ice, that means that Batroc has a huge advantage. He's an extremely skilled fighter. So Captain America has to fight him. And while Hawkeye is waking up, they're fighting. And while Hawkeye is waking up, we get another of those tossed-off great Mark Waid one-liners. He says, "That boy, Cap, beat the crepe out of him." Crepe Suzanne. You have that instead of crap, and it works perfectly. But Captain America throws Batroc away from him, and then uses his new shield in a way that he could not have used his old one. As a sled. Look at the choice here. The artistic choice that Ron Garney chooses is not to show Captain America leaping onto this thing. Instead, he shows us this incredibly charged panel right before he does. You can know in a minute what he's about to do here. You don't have to see him jump on board. You know by this panel what he's about to do. How beautiful that is. How wonderfully done that is. And it saves the day. But it doesn't help Captain America, who is still freaked out by the fact that the public worships him. In fact, he goes to lunch in a nondescript Brooklyn diner with Thor, specifically because Thor is accustomed to being worshipped. That is wonderful. That is fantastic that Mark Waid would think that, realize it, and give us this scene. It's just terrific. Just terrifically done. And this whole thing runs like that. Ron Garney doesn't stick around. The artwork goes to Dave Eaglesham and then to one of the Kubert brothers. And the Kubert brother that ends it with Captain America up on the torch of the Statue of Liberty looking out at the world. And you look at this final panel. This is a final panel in this graphic novel. And if you're an American, what's the first thing you see? The Twin Towers. You see the Twin Towers. I thought that this was a really neat little gesture. Of course, when Captain America does that, it was not permissible for the public to go up into the torch of the Statue of Liberty. Not a lot of people that I know have been up in the torch of the Statue of Liberty. It's quite the thing. It's a whole lot further up than the crown of the Statue of Liberty. But that's our book for today. It's To Serve and Protect. A great little run. Emphasize little. Even once you lose Ron Garney's artwork, the artwork still stays good. It's not as good, but it's good. But it's a realization of the character. It's the hero's return storylines were by and large enormously successful. This it's probably the one that I've reread the most, unless it's the Avengers, that incredible Avengers run. That sooner or later Mike and I will get around to. But for now, that is your comic book, Captain America: To Serve and Protect. I haven't seen Mike's video yet, but I'm sure that he praises it. Probably knows a lot more about its details than I do. I loved it at the time. At the time, I was just naturally plugged into the comic book world. So if there was a run that started sparking word of mouth, I learned about it from other comic book fans or from my comic book shop owner. That, hey, I'm hearing really good things about this. It was decades before your comic book shop owner wanted you to buy vapes or bobbleheads or maybe rent a room for tabletop gaming. It was when he read comics and listened to his customers. And I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't disappointed at all. I used to have the big hardcover omnibus that had Mark Waid did that original one with Ron Garney, and he did this run with Ron Garney. He did a two-part storyline for Tales of Suspense that I really, really liked. I've talked about it on this channel before, also with Ron Garney. And there was a Captain America spin-off book, an abortive spin-off book called Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty. And Sentinel of Liberty was pretty good. And I think all of that was included in that big omnibus volume. I'm sure that Michael K Vaughan has it. I used to have it, but they're too unwieldy. But anyway, that's your Epic Comic Book Wednesday for today. I don't know what Mike will pick for next week, but we will reconvene then and find out together. So I'll see you then. Thank you.